Welcome to CEO Unscripted. My name is Alvaro Rice. I am the CEO of Sync, which is the top technology platform for the best real estate teams in North America. And I'm here with my good friend Jeff Cook, who runs one of the most successful teams in all of North America, certainly in South Carolina, with over 150 agents and selling more than 1,500 homes a year. And I've asked him to be here with us today because he is a true expert at something that I've seen is a difficult step for many of our clients, which is how to really profitably grow your team beyond your initial group, right? How do you go from those first 5, 6, and then get it to a place with like 150 people? How do you source candidates? How do you recruit them? How do you onboard them? And most importantly, how do you get them to production so that they're actually bringing to the team more than they're taking from the team pretty early on? So Jeff, thank you so much for joining us here, and welcome to CEO Unscripted.
Thank you, Alvaro. I appreciate you having me along. It's always a fun time being able to do this and share with the audience and share with the group and all the different members that are watching.
Awesome. So talk to us a little bit about your secret sauce. From nuts to bolts, where do you start, and how do you successfully add more people to your team?
You know, it's interesting. First is to figure out, to understand how the real estate team evolves, right? And so whenever I've been in business now for about 17 years, as you said. Last year, my team did about 1,635 transactions, which is awesome. We are predominantly in South Carolina. And a lot of people, here's the thing, a lot of people hear 1,635 transactions and then they're reaching for the X because they're like, there's no way that I can relate to that, or, you know, maybe one day I'll be there, but this is not. And so before anybody hits X, doesn't watch any further, I just want to explain just one thing that's unique about our real estate team that I think anybody can relate to. And we are very, very good at growing real estate teams. That's what we do. And we coach real estate agents around the country to do this. But our real estate team is simply this. We have 9 locations, right? We're in South Carolina over the entire state. We sell across the entire state of South Carolina. This is what we're really good at, is focusing on real estate sales in one state. And the only difference between our team and a lot of other teams out there that are 100 transactions, 300 transactions, wherever it may be, is that we figured out how to do the real estate team really good one time, and we've reduplicated it 9 times at our different locations, right? So anybody that's thinking 1,635, think about this. Let's look at one real estate team that's doing 200 or 300 transactions, and then we'll figure out how to scale that to 9 later. But more importantly, let's just break it down into a couple hundred transactions, one real estate location, done. And then we figure out expansion and all that in further steps. So when we break it down that way, it's easier to grasp, right? And so the evolution of the real estate team is simply this. Whenever I go out, I learn how to, become a realtor and sell houses and convert and win in multiple offers and all that. And then I get typically more buyers than I can handle. And then I start listing some homes and I become a listing agent. So most agents start off working predominantly buyers. And then as they grow and become top producer status, they move over to that listing agent side, which is wonderful. And then as they continue, those listings then turn around and have babies, which are buyers. So then they catch themselves into this sort of catch-22 of, I want to list all these homes, but then they also want to go buy homes. And it's really hard to get all these contracts accepted, especially in today's climate of multiple offers in most parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And so the natural thing to do here is to say, well, how can I get some help, right? And then of course you bring in some administrative help along the way. But from an agent standpoint, the first thing that somebody does is whenever their time is exhausted, the first thing that they do is they bring in this buyer's agent, right? Everybody understands that that's the process, right? You bring in this buyer's agent and then maybe a second buyer's agent to work all these buyers and maybe buy, some leads from a company such as yours, which is very good quality leads, by the way. We've been a Sync platform user since 2014, which that's, in dog years, that's like 70 years, So,
I thought it was longer, Joe.
It might be
a very long time.
It might be. But anyways, I digress from that. So you bring these agents in and you're growing these real estate teams, and most people can do it up to 5, 6 agents. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. They get stuck around that 6, sometimes 10 agent mark. And, then the next part is where I brought these buyer agents in, and I'm trying to get them to help me grow the team and try to help me succeed in converting these real estate transactions. But something that they don't take into effect is, okay, well, it's harder for me to replace myself with listings. It's more difficult to do that. And so if I want to replace myself at the kitchen table with a seller, well, now not only do I have to know how to convert a lead, but I have to go and be able to interview and sit down and pitch the presentation and talk about, the details with the pictures and the staging and talk commissions and negotiate all that at real time. And the problem is that whenever you bring agents in, all of a sudden you're getting what I call half cent dollars, 50-cent dollars, sometimes 70, 30-cent dollars, depending on the splits, whatever it may be. But regardless, when I did all the work myself, I was getting 100-cent dollars, depending on my split with my brokerage, but whatever was left over, I was getting 100% of that, right? So when I bring on somebody to help me out, now I have to account. Now I actually need this person who's not as skilled as me, by the way. I need them to produce twice as many properties because we're splitting the money. So I need them to sell twice as much as I ever did in order for me to break even. And a lot of people don't understand that simple concept. So whenever we coach people, we tell them, we say, look, this is what we've done on our own team, by the way. Last 3 or 4 years, the big numbers we talked about earlier, 150 agents, we went from about 30 agents to 150, really in about 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And so we've gotten really good at a couple of things, which I'll go over, here in just a few minutes. But the part that people don't understand is that whenever they go to replace themselves first with buyers and sellers, you don't just replace yourself with one person, because that person's not as skilled as you or sells many homes as you. But you don't just cold turkey quit. You slow down and bring in 2 people to come into your place, and as you slow down further, you bring in another 2 people. So you have 3 or 4 people doing the heavy lifting that you were doing at one time, which sounds much simpler than it actually is executed on. But if not, then what surely is going to happen is an agent's going to have to jump out of listings, then jump back in because the clients aren't happy and people aren't selling and all of these things.
And also, Jeff, you're not working less, you're just working differently, right? So instead of dealing with clients directly, you're making your people successful, which is also a full-time job.
Exactly. Training them, sales meetings, content for them, helping them overcome their objections. You're definitely working the same, if not more, in the early stage. That's for sure. That's for sure. And so the thing that we have really figured out over the last couple of years, which has been great for you guys. Of course, you keep selling us more platforms every time that we get the opportunity to grow, which is good. But the thing that we figured out is this: is that as you grow, getting these agents to say, I want to get into real estate, assuming that you're looking at adding a new agent to your team. From the time that I say I want to get into real estate to the time that I go to real estate school, graduate real estate school, okay, get into learning how to do my scripting and my dialogues, even if I have sales experience, it's still going through this process, and then getting my first client and getting that client to closing. Oftentimes that's several months. That's a several month process. And a lot of teams and realtors out there that are trying to grow and hire an assistant, hire a licensed assistant, here's the mistake that they do. They have what's called the oh crap recruiting model. And the oh crap recruiting model is, oh crap, my person just quit. I need to go hire somebody else. So let me go run ads, put something on social media who can, and oftentimes you hire the wrong person out of necessity or fear because somebody else just quit, right? So what we've learned is that you don't have to do it in a massive way, but you always need to have some kind of budget out there for something with recruiting, with adding new talent to the real estate team. If your real estate team is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people large or bigger, then you always have to have that recruiting wheel going and spinning, so that whenever somebody decides real estate's not for them anymore, they decide that they have a spouse that wants to move to another state or whatever it may be, that you have somebody else, and you as the business owner aren't left high and dry without new talent coming in behind them.
They're saying that you have a proactive approach to recruiting rather than reactive, right? Whether you need it or not today, you're going to need it tomorrow to either grow or replace. So you're constantly in recruiting, whether you need it or not today.
Well, the average life cycle of a real estate agent's what, 1 to 2 years. And I would argue on a real estate team that gets, high number of leads, I would argue it's 3, 4, 5 years. But there's still a life cycle. Point is that there's an ending date. The statistic, 90% of small businesses are going to fail in the first couple of years, right? Same thing with real estate agents. Most of them are going to fail after year 1. But even when you provide the systems and resources to them and leads to them, there's still oftentimes a 3, 4 year window there where agents decide, do I still want to do this or not? And that's really something that is where we figured out, hey, you know what? Maybe we have somebody that's a top producer and they're asking, what's next? on the real estate team. What's next? How do we go about doing this? What's that next step?
But before going there, Jeff, so you touched on a point that I wanted to ask you point blank. So you talked about taking someone that you find that maybe has sales experience and nurturing them through the process of them getting a real estate license. Of course, the other option, which is tempting but has its pitfalls, is to go and try to grab an already existing producer from a different team or independent and bring them into your team. Do you have a preference between the two, or do you do both?
I don't mind both. I like both. There's very strong pros and cons for both, right? The new agent takes longer to get up and running, and also when they hit this 3 to 4 year window we're talking about, they might look around and think, well, I wonder what might be somewhere else. They've never been anywhere else, right? So sometimes it causes them to just go out and see what's out there. Whereas you get an experienced agent that's been out there, that's failed miserably at other companies, and then comes to you and realizes what they give you or what you give them, then they're very loyal. However, it's challenging sometimes for them to fit into accountability and to culture when they've already learned how to do it wrong somewhere else. So getting them to unlearn the old habits and learn the new habits is something that's a challenge, right?
That makes sense. And so can you walk us through that initial process that you do to source and recruit? What are your 3 things that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'll say this, this year, I'm proud my marketing team has got this recruiting funnel going down pretty successfully. And this year we've onboarded about 25 or 30 agents. And that's came from 378 applications, meaning these people come to our website, apply to be a part of our company, apply to be part of our real estate team, fill out the personality assessments, answer the questions that we ask. 378 of those instances happen, and about 7 or 8%. So we want to top grade. We want to go through some interview processes in order to weed out the people that are not serious and that don't want to go through the process completely and fully.
But
Jeff, around the
7-8%
is who we're hiring.
So you have, like, of course, you're Jeff Cook, so you have a natural organic inflow of people that want to be in your team, right? But for the average real estate team leader that is growing, how can they proactively get candidates that would not naturally come to them?
It depends on the budget, but let's start with some very low budget activities first. Okay, the very best thing that we've done is social media, showing social proof, having some videos done. And if people want to search for these videos, you go on YouTube and you can look at Jeff Cook Real Estate. We call them day in the life videos. And so what we do is we have a camera person that will go around and we'll find a top producer on our real estate team. And for an hour or two, we'll go and see what it looks like with them working with a client in the conference room or making their phone calls or what their family life looks like. And we'll create a 45-second video from this. And it doesn't have to be perfect, by the way. A lot of people think it's got to be very perfect. And actually, the more unperfect it is, the better relatable that you are, right? Which is why we're doing this take exactly one time. No matter what happens on camera, we're not recording. But anyway, so, that getting that information and spread around of an agent on your team telling the story about the fact that you provide leads, the team leader provides leads, or the fact that they provide this culture and that they're helping making me successful. That's really the very best way to recruit. If you don't yet have an agent on your team, then you go on and tell the story of the fact that you have this excess amount of buyers or these leads that you need help working, and that you're looking to have a apprenticeship program or a mentoring program for new agents in the business, and that will attract these new agents to come to you to be a part of your mentorship program. If you have the bandwidth to provide some extra training to them or mentorship, that really is a big plus that a lot of agents are looking for. A lot of agents that are brand new have a mindset of what am I looking for in a brokerage, right? And experienced agents understand, look, the thing you need to look for in a brokerage is actually the client. Without the client, it doesn't matter how much training you have.
Yeah.
Well, brand new agents don't think that way. They think because I'm licensed, I'll find somebody that wants to buy or sell a home. I'm not worried about that. I just want to make sure I don't look like a fool in front of them when I find them. So the most important thing to me as a brand new agent is training and mentorship and making sure I fill the contract out the right way. And so if you're speaking to in a marketing piece to a brand new agent, mentioning of leads is important, but most important is mentioning of training and onboarding and mentorship and apprenticeship programs. That's really where those new agents will capture and come in and latch onto you.
So your two prongs to your sales pitch would say, one is mentorship and coaching from you as an experienced real estate agent. The other one is I have a system that provides me both leads, but also a system to work through them to convert them into business, right?
And here's the thing, when I'm sitting down to interview, and I'm sitting down to discuss with the agent whether this is a good fit for them, I made a mistake in first showing them the leads and all the honey first, and then figuring out, well, are you interested in this career? Do you like this? And by the way, are you actually going to work? I put the cart before the horse. Instead, the best way to do this is to say, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for in a real estate career and how much money you want to make and how many hours you're willing to work. And are you willing to go and knock on a door to do an open house? Or what are you willing to do and what are you not willing to do? Because, and then after they answer those questions properly and I feel like they're a good culture fit, then I'll show them the leads and discuss the honey part with them. And we learned that through a series of mishires early on that didn't work because all we did was to say, we have leads, if you want to call them, come on. And instead you need to get the commitment first and then go and show them the leads and the access that they would have being on your team.
Well, self-selection can be a terrible thing, right? If you're giving them the image of an easy life with leads that just fall on you, then you're going to get the candidates that want an easy life and they're not going to be able to be successful at it. So I think you make the right thing about understanding their true motivations and who they are as a person. And then you can close by, oh, by the way, I have all of this that I'm providing.
Exactly. So going into a couple other sources just real quick before we move on. So social media is huge. I have one of my agents on my team that I told him about this apprenticeship, and he put your stuff out there, and all agents from all over the place that I'm interested. He's a top producer and sells a lot of homes, and so he said, put this apprenticeship program out there. He had a lot of attraction to that. So social media is big. Also getting your agents, if you have them, to spread the word, maybe even compensating them in some form or fashion. Some franchises do this. If you're
How do you do that? What compensation do you use?
In the first year, whatever the agent brings in, we give a percentage of that back to the recruiting agent.
Awesome.
So, and the team leader can come up with some program for that. If somebody's interested in reaching out, I can discuss that more. But the idea is that some franchises automatically do this depending on who you recruit. But if you're an independent, then the team leader has the ability to provide that agent with compensation for recruiting them. The thing is, if you're a top producer, you probably are friends with other people that I would want on my team. So I really want to compensate you for bringing your friends along, because birds of a feather flock together, right? So the idea is that if you know somebody, then bring them along. Social proof. Also as simple as email signatures, putting in the email signature that we're looking to add a couple agents to our team. We have that in our global email signature that goes out from all 150 agents on the team across the country. The other thing is that whenever they have these services out there where you can, pay $30, $50 and brand new listing, you can email it out to your MLS. Well, instead of emailing a listing out, you can email out about the apprenticeship program or that you have excessive leads in order to recruit that way. Of course, having a splash page on the website. All those are some lower cost activities. Higher cost activities would be some radio advertising. We get some good quality candidates from radio. Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, people are dreading going back to work on Monday. So we run some ads Sunday and Monday morning where people are on the way to work, and that pulls in a couple of candidates that are ready to switch careers.
That's a scary thing, right? Radio, we don't know how to do that. What would be that first step if someone wanted to see how to break into radio? What would be that first step?
So, first off, maximize the cheap ones, right? Maximize social media, maximize your agents, grab a video of either yourself or your agent. I would argue that spending money on a video for social proof, even take that same video, put that onto your splash page on your website. All of those are the lower cost, cheaper ones that I would maximize first. And then just think about, maybe I could do a couple of spots to encourage somebody to join if you wanted to take that step and go into radio. There are, radio brokers out there that can help out with that and what that spot would look like. But again, radio is something that you have to have an adequate budget for. So if you're a team of, less than 10, I wouldn't consider radio. I would grow the team to 10 or more and then start thinking outside the box. Another actually inexpensive one is real estate school. A lot of real estate schools right now will allow you to come in and just have a quick conversation with what agents should expect in the first 6 months. And of course, if they like what you say and they hear about your apprenticeship program, then naturally will come and join your real estate team.
Yeah, and I pick up two things of what you said. One about being explicit and the other one about being deliberate. So explicit, people assume, oh, everyone knows that we're always hiring. You don't say it, they might not. They might think it's cool to work in your team and not have the courage to ask you. Mm-hmm. So what Jeff was saying about having it in your signatures, saying it, actually saying it when you're doing, even if you're doing an open house or different things that you're filming yourself and putting out there, having explicitly say, hey, I am hiring, you will be surprised how that influences. And the other thing about being deliberate, so Jeff was saying, like compensating agents, we have some clients and friends that actually have a requirement quota. Same thing as you have of like general buying, sourcing. They do the same. Like you have to at least bring me a candidate every 3 months or something like that. That puts them in the that one of their responsibilities is to try to grow the team. There's one thing you mentioned there when you were saying compensation and that you give a percentage of that news production into the one that recruited them. Do you also do? I heard some of our friends require a mentorship program too. So that agent that brought you into the team also has to mentor you through that first year in exchange to making that part of production.
Depending on who the agent is, that's the recruiting agent. If I want them mentoring, yes, that is exactly right. But sometimes you have to analyze. If I have an agent that brings somebody to the table and they're a top producer, I may not want to slow down their production to mentor this agent. But somebody else that may be happy selling 20 or 30 homes a year and is that mid-level producer, they may be great in mentoring a new agent. So not the person that always brings the person in is not necessarily who I put them under, but yes, in theory that helps, and that is their compensation to do it because they're making revenue off of that person in that first year. The other thing that I wanted to share is that every time that an agent does a transaction, the opposing agent on the other side, the co-broke agent, is a tremendous person to discuss with, bringing onto the real estate team, right? So maybe they're unhappy with where they are or whatever it may be. I want to make sure I hit on the very number one thing, though, that we do for recruiting. The number one thing that we do above all else, all of the other ones are great ideas, but the number one thing that we do is we have an amazing onboarding and training process. And the reason that is because that's became known in the community and amongst the realtor teams around the area, that if you need new agent training or any agent training to get off of the ground, you have to go to Jeff Cook's real estate team. So we've invested a lot of time onto onboarding and to training new agents. So we've coined a program called 100 Days to 100K. And what this program does is it allows us, it goes through, it's an online platform. And so we still do ask them to come into the office to do it. But the biggest problem is, as a team leader, I don't have time to train new agents. I don't have time to invest into new agents, right? I want to, but I just don't have the time to. So I might have an hour a day that I can spend with them, but what else are they going to do for the other 7 hours a day? And so we figured out the ideal schedule for a brand new agent for the first 100 days of their real estate career. Like, what should they do in the first 100 days? Day one is we're going to show up and get their internet set up and get their copier set up and start training them on scripting practices. Where day two, we might show them the database and all of that. Well, instead of me standing in the front of the room and training that over time, I stood in front of the room and trained it for this 100 days. And then I then broke that down into video where they have segments and they have quizzes and they have case studies and they have to write mock contracts and submit that homework up to their mentor, to their sales manager on a daily basis. So it takes away 95% of the time that a team leader has to spend in training new agents. It takes that away, which is beautiful because now I get my time back. My time investment's not significant to bring on a new agent that hopefully will work out, but may not work out, right? Because there's nothing worse than bringing a new agent on and spending tons of time with them. And then after 6 months, they decide that it's not for them anymore. And so we've created this program that allows 100 days to 100K, that allows us to bring in a new agent, start them through the process, and we give them case studies. Like I give you a great example of one. We might say, okay, we're moving to South Carolina. We're a family of how many ever. We're moving to South Carolina. We're looking at this city. Here's what we're looking for in a house and our price range. And then we'll, just like a lead would be online. And then we say, go find us some houses, make sure we're in the database properly. Okay, now that we've done that, show me 3 houses. We make the agent go and preview those houses and take a look, discuss with the listing agent details on that. They bring that back. We say, okay, we want to buy this house. Now, again, the sales manager has not went out on any of this. This is all being done virtually. And then the sales manager will say, great, I want to buy Main Street. Go ahead and write me up an offer. And then the agent writes the offer up based on how we train them to do it. And then they send that into their sales manager, and the sales manager reviews the offer and how has the client received experience up at that point, right? And what we're trying to get them to do is practice on the program, not practice on money with real leads. So through that 100-day program, they've written 15, 20 contracts, and they're on track to make $100,000 in that first year by completing that program. And the program's smart enough. What's that?
You give them real life scenarios and have them role play through them fully. And ironically, that's the same thing that top management consulting teams like Bain and McKinsey do to hire. They on different kind of cases, but they're trying to put you in those real life scenarios. And so you have that sort of pre-programmed for your 100 days, right?
Yeah. And if somebody is trying to figure out how to onboard a team member through Realty Partners, through our coaching program, we have access to this where we can show you a snapshot of what this looks like, so you can go and build this thing for yourself. And that's how we've grown from 30 agents up to 150 is by employing this. I don't have time to train that many people. My team doesn't have time to train that many people, but it allows us to go out and to focus on getting them onboarded and trained up really well. And then after they do that, then we go become successful together. And we find that most times after the 100 days, 3, 4 contracts are in the process of being written, multiple clients are worked with, where before that, 100 days, they were just getting started and trying to figure out how to write contracts. Well, now at the end of 100 days, they're already writing 2 or 3 contracts and actually have sold 2 or 3 houses by the time they're successful, which helps them to hit the ground running a lot faster. And that's our number one recruiting tool, because we have that onboarding so dialed in, it can help people get off the ground so quickly. Our competitors say, go there and start there. And we don't have anything like that. So go there and start there, and then maybe we'll talk later.
Does that program also include training on your system? I know you use SIG, other people use other things, but is that an integral part of the training too?
Yeah, we train on the CRM, we train on our internal culture, we train on all of those things. And it's a series of videos through the process, some videos, some quizzes, some case studies, so that they have the ability to mix it up.
So what I'd love to do, so I was thinking when you said about your videos, maybe we'll share 1 or 2 links in the comments after of some of your life in the day in the life of. And also if you have anything to share, even at a high level of your training program, we can put it there and people can reach out to you if they want to know more and go deeper into it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to share it. Absolutely.
And so then the last part I'd say is, I think you talked about being proactive, deliberate on recruiting, so that you have your candidates before you need them and have a good vetting process and then a great training process after the fact. What happens after 3 years? You have different personalities, but you'll have some that are like doing great and now want to grow their own wings, some that prefer the containment of your team. How do you react to that down the road?
It's interesting because the real estate team, I believe, has gotten a little bit of a negative connotation over time. And what the real estate team
Not for me.
Not for you. Well, hey, I know, you understand, you get it. But a lot of other realtors think, hey, the real estate team is a good place for you to go and get started. And it is a good place to go and get started, but it's also a good place for you to stay long-term. And at this 3-4 year mark, an agent that comes in and selling 30 to 50 homes a year on the team, they ask the question, okay, what's next, right? How do I get to that 100 mark? And so helping them answer that question is important. And this is how we have opened multiple locations. Whenever I get an agent that excels, that's really, really good and says, look, I want to go to that next level, you really have 2 or 3 options. We can either help get you some admin work or some administrative people to help you advance to the next level. We can create a team within our team, which means that as a team leader, you also will have 2 or 3 agents under you helping prop you up, right? Because a lot of people believe, well, if I have a team and I have an agent on my team, they work for me. I don't see it that way. I see it as that they can also be the talent on the team and have 2 or 3 agents that work for them, and we all thrive in the same ecosystem together. And then the third way for an agent to grow would be if I want to go out and recreate my second real estate office, another Jeff Crick real estate office down the street. Why not go and plan another office and have 10 or 15 agents where they're the team leader for that if they want to step out of production and get into management. So opening those opportunities up, well, what's next? And I think a lot of times an agent hits 30, 40 transactions and the team leader secretly gets nervous and says, I hope they never leave me, right? I hope they never leave me, because if they do, then I don't know what I'm going to do, right? Because they're a lion's share of the production. And I would challenge those people to think outside the box and say, well, what else could you offer them? And don't believe just because you're a team or team leader that you don't have anything else to offer them. Let's figure out a way for them to maybe get some additional help, and don't be scared of their growth. Actually propel their growth, because that's what's going to keep the top producer with you long term.
Yeah. And I think that the beauty of your system is that if you, because you're getting production out of them in the first year, if in the fourth year they decide to actually leave and go do something on their own, you still, the equation is much more in your favor because you've gotten much more than you given them, right? While if it had taken them 2 or 3 years to actually get to production, then you're in trouble if you don't keep them for 10. One of the bigger things, not operating out of fear, is something that I've seen our most successful clients do. So if you're afraid of that 40 transaction agent leaving, then it's going to be a toxic relationship where you're going to be doing stuff you don't want in order to keep them. Well, if you are confident with what you've given and taken out of the relationship, that it's a much healthier relationship, which in the time makes a lot of them either stay or come back. They leave and then they come back, which I'm sure you've had. And I've seen the most success in those people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alvaro, thank you for having us on here today. I do appreciate it. And going through this life cycle of the agent, I'm super excited for us to see what the next 4 years has in store. We've been able to grow the team this way. Then I'm really excited for us to keep on going and growing and being excited for that process and that journey. So thank you so much for having me along here today.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. Thank you for joining us and sharing. I know we're always a little nervous about sharing our secrets. You're a very generous person for that. I know that a lot of people will have gotten a ton of value out of this. We will put some links in the comments. And if you want to talk further to Jeff, do reach out. He is the best in the industry. I've seen it firsthand. So thank you again for joining us, Jeff. Thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next. Thank you.